Hey, what's up? It's Colleen. I was like so inspired to do this video, and it's about how trusting yourself can be like the most beneficial thing you could do for yourself or the planet or the universe. Like, it's the way that the universe can speak to you, it's the way that you can have a bigger impact, but more so like really connect to something and not feeling separate. It's the best thing you could do for humanity and for the planet at large. And what got me lit up to talk about this was because I fucking have had such a hard time trusting myself, trusting the process of life, trusting that things are actually working out for me, just trusting in general. And I feel I'm probably not alone in that. But what's so cool is to like see the flip side too now. Like, that was my general MO. And even just journaling this morning, I was just like letting it come out, artist way morning pages, and I was like, I don't really have a lot to say, but what kept coming up was this tone underneath my words, and what I was just sharing was on my mind of, well, that sucks, or like this like coming, like it almost worked out and then it didn't, or lack. And so instead of continuing to just write, I noticed that tone and I was like, oh, like I see this old stuff coming up that was me not trusting life, or my ego really showing up, showing it's not trusting in life and I can't trust life. That's so interesting. Let this stuff go. And when I got back into my own truth or power of what I wanted to cultivate, it was like, what would the mature, like the queen within me do? And it was like, oh, like not focus on that at all. And it made me start to realize that like I'm not as much. And that feels so freeing. So what held me back from doing that a long time ago was this sense of like duty, or it's up to me, or I have to control, and like I have to help other people. And so I remember this one point reading from a book from my first life coach, Eva. Her name is Irene Kendig. And she wrote this book called Conversations with Jerry. And what she did was worked with a medium who helped her connect with 5 people that had been in her life and passed away, and she interviewed them of what their life was like at the very last breath and then afterwards. And something I found so fascinating of something that this one of her characters or people talked about was around this sense that like we can't do what we want. Like, I never trusted myself because I always wanted to help please other people, and I always wanted to do a good job, and I always wanted to be more helpful to others than maybe I needed to be to myself. Like, that sacrificial feeling is what I thought love was. And I remember reading this passage that really flipped that on its head. And maybe you felt that way too. But the passage said how one of these people that she knew, who died kind of young, after he passed, he was welcomed by like a new guide, kind of a dude, and he looked over his life. They like did a life review, and by the end of it, what it was like in this ethereal time that in planet Earth people were about to celebrate his funeral. And the guide asked him, do you want to attend your own funeral? And what the character shared was how in the past in his life, his first reaction was like, of course I need to be there because they need me. Like, he didn't actually want to go, but he felt, well, of course I need to go because that's what I have to do. But in this other heavenly place, he had a new kind of imprint of a truth for himself. And that was this realization that said, I am only helping others when I'm doing what I truly desire to do. I cannot help others when I'm not helping myself. And it like summed it up in one little line of like, I can only help others when I'm helping myself. Like, I'm only helping the collective when I actually am doing what I need. And so in that moment, he chose not to go to his own funeral because he knew he really didn't want to, and that wouldn't have been best. And he knew from in this ethereal heavenly place that the only way to actually help others is to do what's right for us. And he left. He like fluttered away. So I think about that because when I read it, it was so mind-boggling to me. I was like, is that really okay? Like, is that really allowed? Because if I were to get real, like, there's some things that I don't really want to do, but I think I should, you know? And so, but then how can I trust myself if I'm putting others in front of myself? Or how can I trust myself thinking that's the only way to get my needs met or to show love is through sacrifice? How can I trust myself when I'm not doing what I actually want to do and just do it because I think I have to or should? Like, that would definitely mess up the trusting part, right? Like, that definitely does not have alignment or clarity or flow with what's on my outside world and what's on my inside world. And then there's like breakdown. And I noticed this in a really real way in my life recently, which is what I also am feeling really lit up to share about. But I want to check in with you, like, in the comments, if you're watching this replay, let me know, like, how does that resonate with you? Do you ever feel like you have to do things you don't want to and that's just the way it goes? Do you ever feel like you couldn't change your mind if you really wanted to or something wasn't lighting you up anymore? Let me know what stops you from doing what you really want to do or feel like would be right for you. Let me know in the comments. Okay. So what I found is that unless it's a hell yes, it's typically a hell no. Like, it's been really fascinating to play with this thought that if I trust myself, that can be the best thing I can do for others as well. Because all of a sudden, it takes out all these like mediocre tolerations that are okay, but just making me feel kind of blah, and skimming them out of my picture and then bringing new opportunity in. And to me, it's like it stems from trusting ourselves, which can be so hard, again, and yet it was one of my things that my friends kept saying, like, just trust yourself. And for some reason, I just could not do it. But doing more of what I felt really in my heart and going with it and sticking with it, and then processing some trauma that was in my own body and doing clearings on my own self, like, have really helped. But this was like a really huge example, okay, of like what miracles, like the miracles we're waiting for are on the other side of you standing up for yourself and doing what you truly want, even if you think it's not okay or allowed or you should, okay? So I am currently preggers. I am 8.5-month preggers. And just about a month ago, Michael and I were looking into like some pregnancy classes. We're like, okay, we should probably like get to know some of this stuff. And so Michael found a 12-week course called the Bradley Method. And he was like, this looks good. The lady seems really nice. Like, let's go. So I was like, okay, cool. So I go with him. And during this one specific class, we just are not lit up by it. Like, I'm just kind of getting impatient. I'm feeling like I know in my heart that like this birthing thing is going to be a mindset thing, an experience that is more than just the physical. And in the class I just was not into it. Michael was like looking at me kind of bored, but he was willing to go for it. And after that class, what I loved about it was that he and I connected and got to spend that personal time together. But what I noticed was we were only connecting off of like complaining on the class. And so the next week came around and I had the opportunity to go. And I remember driving up into my driveway thinking Michael and I were gonna leave together, like we were on our way, but he had actually already left. And then I was like pissed because I was like, I thought you were waiting for me, all this stuff, but I just took a minute. I was just like, let me just breathe into this. And so if I were being honest, this class was like a 5 out of 10 in interest to me. Like, if I were being honest, I actually didn't want to go. And so in that moment, I felt into the reality of if I didn't go to this class and if I honored that piece of me that didn't actually resonate with this thing. And I felt this lightness, I felt this expansion. It almost felt like it was breaking the rules feeling that way, thinking about that, not following that commitment. And then I thought about going and it would be fine, but I just saw myself sitting there like in a stupor, just being like, 2 hours of my life, here it is, here it goes, even though it would be fine. And that night, I remember I chose to stay. Like, I chose to stay at my house and say, this is gonna be my time. This is my own mother training. My own Colleen gets to become more confident in herself and her choices training and really dive into that. And through that, and like feeling still that wobble of like, is this really okay? But choosing to focus on how it is, I had one of the most profound experiences of a night that I've maybe ever had, where I just felt open and lighter and expansive and caring, and really affirmed this new maturity coming through. That is what I'd like what I've been focusing on all year. And it came from when I chose to stand up for myself and not do something that I should have done and would have been with the current, but I actually didn't want to do. To me, that was the moment I chose not to go to my funeral, like the guy in the book. And you know what's so cool is that when I got real and said, you know what, I had a good night, and if I'm being honest, I don't like this class, I don't want to go to this class. I told Michael, I'm unavailable for it. You can go if you want, but I'm not going to go. So he's like, okay, that's fine. We can quit the class. The day that we quit the class, he sent in like the money we owed, and then we stopped. I got an email from the place I'm going to be delivering saying that they have a new class opening up for childbirth. They have one more spot, and it's for 3 weeks only, not 12, and for just 2 hours instead of like 2.5. And I got so elated. And what was so funny to me was this feeling of trusting my own self, trusting what wanted to come through and what I desired to then lead the way. And when I was willing to stand for that and like not know what was next, but still just say, you know what, hell no, because it's not a hell yes, a new thing opened up. And that was the miracle I felt came from when I stood by what I desired, what I truly felt was right for me, beyond shoulds or whatever. So it was just so cool, and I wanted to share that because like, I couldn't have seen that coming, and yet I feel like, you know, if I had stuck with the class, I maybe wouldn't have even been in the vibration of inviting that in, or like it wouldn't have crossed my path. Who knows? I don't know. But by allowing myself to stand, even when I couldn't see what was next, for what I desired and what was truly my heart, I feel like that's what brought in a miracle. And that's what we're all looking for, right? So trusting yourself can be super helpful to everyone because you're doing what's best for you, and then you work from your overflow. And you come out like a happier person, and that helps other people, and people are all empowered to do what they need to do in their own thing. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you so much for listening. Let me know in the comments what you feel about that, or if it resonates. And if you want more videos like this, go to my website, ColleenColes.com, and I can't wait to see you there. And thanks so much for listening and for trusting yourself and the universe will have your back. All right, bye.